Welcome to a new episode of Depreciation Nation, and we are bringing yet another enthusiast segment to you today in this video. But before we get into that, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen so that you don't miss additional enthusiast segments like this one right here. Now, having said that, one of the great things about this channel is the fact that we get a lot of enthusiasts very much like us that invite us to come and sample a few of their cars. And so we have managed to bring you the 996 Turbo, we have managed to bring you the Beck 550 Spider, Steven's Porsche Boxster S, and today our friend Todd has invited us to come and sample his transaxle twins in the form of an 87 944 Turbo, also known as the 951, and an 85 928. Now, this particular car right here, which is the car we will be taking out here in just one moment, is not your standard 944. This is a 944 Turbo, as previously mentioned, and as such, it doesn't have the base car's 165 horsepower. It has the turbo's 210 horsepower, which are going to make it a lot more fun and a lot more exciting to drive. Now, to my left right here, we have Derriff, and the car that Derriff's going to be taking out, which is the 85 928.
Yes.
Tell me about the car.
Well, this is a Euro spec 1985 928, and what makes that special is this has 310 horsepower. The American version is usually right around 288, but with the added horsepower for this car, it actually creates a little bit much more of a zip. And what is quite unique also is that for the time, pushing 310 horsepower was absolutely absurd. The Corvette at that time was roughly 100 horsepower below this version of the Porsche. So it was really quite an achievement for this car at the time. It's also unique because it's a V8 engine, and this is one of Porsche's first V8 engines. So this car is just going to be a lot of fun to drive, and we're going to take it out in a few.
And on that note, we were on our way here, we were reviewing quarter mile times, and do you recall what those were?
This car at 288 horsepower, it was 0 to 10 at, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
0 to 60 at 5.7 seconds. It was also making 100 with under 8 seconds. It did the quarter mile at 14 second flat.
Now I want to put that
extraordinary for the time.
And I want to put that into perspective because the E36 M3, which ran from 95 to 99, kind of ushered the 90s into a new era. It was thought to be spectacular with performance, and they certainly are very analog and very fun to drive, as we have featured them previously on this channel. But to put that into perspective, this car is a 1985, and it could run the quarter mile in 14 seconds, and the E36 M3 in 1995 could run the quarter mile in 14.2 seconds. This was 14 seconds at 100?
14 seconds at 100.
And the M3 was 14.2 at 97 miles an hour. So
it was 105, if I'm not mistaken, for that quarter mile at 14 seconds flat. So this car could flat out fly, and that was the American version. The European version,
which we have yet to sample,
would have gone much faster, considering it's pushing 30 more horsepower.
I completely agree. Now, when Porsche brought out the 928, it was an intended replacement for the 911, but as we all know, the 911 is followed by an elite purist group, and as a result of that, they were unsuccessful in promoting the 928 as a replacement, and largely, this is probably one of the most unappreciated cars in the Porsche lineup, at least until recently. So, 20 years ago, when I started driving, you couldn't give one of these away.
Now they're absolute steal if you could find one.
Yes, so one of these finished in Prussian blue, similar to this car right here, just went for $47,000 on Bring a Trailer. 20 years ago, you couldn't give them away for $800.
Nobody wanted them.
Nobody wanted them.
But
and honestly, they were an exotic car for the time.
And they are still an exotic car.
So
even to this date.
One of the things that Todd told us was that this particular car has 2 windshield washer reservoirs, one for light contamination and 2 for heavy contamination, and there is actually a button inside that you use to select that. So the level of engineering that is in this particular vehicle is just a marvel 35 years later. So it's enough on yours, like I'm talking about mine. So as previously mentioned, this is an 87 951. Now, I rode in a 951 probably 18 years ago, and it made a spectacular impression on me. It was very, very quick, and for all intents and purposes, I do not believe that these were quite on par with the performance figures of the E36 M3, but I will tell you that they feel much, much faster. Now, this particular car, this particular car Todd has owned for a few years now. It's got about 80,000 miles on it. It does have a manual transmission, as it should. And I'm going to tell you that the cleanliness of this car is such that, as I mentioned to Todd when I got here, this might be the first 944 that I have seen without a cracked rear wing on it. This car has been babied. This car has been taken care of. But this car has also been driven. So we are going to take these 2 cars out. Maybe they're not transaxle twins, maybe they are transaxle cousins, but for all intents and purposes, we're calling them twins in this particular segment. And so now we're going to take them out. We're going to see how they drive. So here we are in the 944 Turbo, internally designated as the 951. I have been driving this car around a little bit, and one of the things that I forgot is old school turbo lag, which we've talked about in a few of our videos. But this car has nothing, and then you hit between 4,500 and 5,000 RPM, and it's terrifying. These cars were hugely underappreciated back in the early 2000s, and maybe not the 951, but definitely with the 944, you could buy one of these for, well, you couldn't give them away for $1,000. They were everywhere for $1,000. And as a result of that, I didn't appreciate them either. I thought, well, if they're $1,000 now, imagine when they're $500 here in a few years. And those few years came and went, and the cars never hit that level of depreciation. But then the enthusiasts started picking them up, because people started to appreciate them as the new cars got faster and quieter and heavier, and people are willing to pay for the old antiquated experience. And let me tell you, this thing is amazing. This thing is absolutely amazing. Now, the interior is somewhat dated, but the seats are great. Controls are simplistic, but I'm going to go into a turn right here. And the car handles amazing. Handling is predictable. You can feel it at the edge of grip. But anyhow, back to what I was saying, the enthusiasts found them. You can't buy a car like this anymore unless it's this car. And as a result of that, prices have climbed astronomically. And now they are an appreciated survivor. This car has 82,167 miles on it at this moment. And everything works. The switchgear works, the windows work, AC works, dashboard is free of cracks. This is just a really well-preserved example, but with 82,000 miles on it, clearly somebody enjoyed it. Makes me wonder how Derriff likes the 928.
Hey! Well, I am now in the 928. 310 horsepower, and this is actually quite fun. The 1985 Porsche 928 Euro spec version, pushing 310 horsepower. This car specifically has 325, so a little bit of work has been done to it. And the moment you sit in this car, you start driving it, you're thinking, yep, this is a 1985 car. It feels a little bit rough on bumpy roads, but there's one thing that I have come to realize about this specific car is that it doesn't like living under 40 miles an hour. It doesn't like living under 60 miles an hour, I should say, to be honest. Because once you get a chance to lay on the dang gas just like that, it's a completely different car. It's like it immediately becomes much smoother. It is quite responsive for the time in which this car was built. And then you're actually feeling all the horsepower that this car is said to have had. So I wouldn't judge this car just by driving it around town. The true, what's the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't judge this car for the time. I wouldn't judge this car just by driving it around town, because its true personality and characteristics really shows at higher speed. This car is begging to be driven. This car wants to be driven. It wants to be pushed. It has a lot of top end speed, and it has a passing gear. Now, for those of us old enough to understand what that is, this Euro model with a passing gear, you know, when you decide you're gonna pass somebody, and you drop a gear a little bit, or for the automatic version I should say, you ease off a little and then you tap it, the car actually drops a gear, and then you are able to actually accelerate and push past the person in front of you. So it actually understands what the driver is trying to do, and it's quite fun to drive. My friend is in a 944 in front of me, and I'm actually going to try and go around him so that, you know, you get a little bit of an experience of this passing gear. That's if he allows me to do so. I don't think he's going to allow me to do so because he's having too much fun in that turbo. But as far as experience, I like being in this car. Visuals is phenomenal. The way in which it was designed, you know, you have almost 360 just by looking around you. It has the right shape, the right angles for you to see everything. So, how'd you like your car?
It was great. So one of the things that I talked about that I forgot about is that these cars have non-existent acceleration without boost. So they go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, terrifying. And then it has positively electric emotional acceleration. So what do you think of the 928?
What I loved about this was the visuals. Like, you turn around and the road is behind you. You have road in front of you, road behind you. You look left and right, you could see everything. And that's amazing, especially when you're driving at high speeds and you want to overtake and you want to look left and you want to look right, and it eliminates a lot of blind spots. And I enjoyed that. I mean, it's something that you really don't think about, but when you have that experience, you're like, dang, I know what's missing. And that's what I enjoyed with this car.
So that is the 951 and the 928. Folks, if you don't own one and you think you might want one, these are cars to buy now. Obviously, we both missed the depreciation curve on these. Obviously, I continue to talk about that over and over and over again because I thought that the depreciation was going to continue. But when you have a properly sorted 951 or a properly sorted 928, there's really nothing like it.
It's a great experience, either one of these cars. And you need to get one.
I agree. I agree. I know where there's one in Lexington that may or may not be a terrible decision. But that's the theme of our channel, is terrible decisions, and so who knows? So we want to thank Todd for allowing us to sample these two gorgeous masterpieces of automobiles. Kind of makes you wish you were in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I think there was a white one in that movie.
Yes, there was.
So remember to hit that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen so that you don't miss more content like this, and talk to you soon.